guys, welcome back to John's Workshop, and this is Workshop Blether number 8. And firstly, one thing I want to get over is a big thank you to everybody, to all 1,000 of you that have been kind enough to click the subscribe button and support the channel. And some of you guys have been with me pretty much from the start, which was a year last April, and a lot of you have come since then, obviously through various means, I guess, through just tripping over the channel, and some through recommendations from people like Aid and other people like that that I've been sort of in communications with over the time. So first thing, cheers, thank you very much to you all. I honestly, when I started out on this journey, I never really expected to get this far, if I'm honest. That's just one of those things. Alright guys, we're filming this short section a little bit out of sequence, so I've got bits and pieces ready now for the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. It's not massive, you know, I'm not a big channel, but I just wanted to mark the occasion and hopefully for the lucky winners thank one or two of you for the support of the channel that's been ongoing and obviously enabling me to reach the 1,000 mark. So I've been doing, and you may have already seen it by now, a little bit of rebranding of the channel. There's a little bit more work to do, but we're almost there now, and when this video goes out I should be fully rebranded in terms of the artwork that I'm using for the channel banner, images for the logo, channel logo, and slides for thumbnails and slides for the start of the videos that are all changing from what I had originally. And I am rubbish at that. I tried starting doing that myself and rapidly realised that A, I don't have the flair for it, and B, I don't have the computer gear and software that I need to do a good job of it. So I have had some help with that from a friend of mine called Ryan, and I'll be leaving his name as in the credits of every video from now on, so the artwork's his, and it's all very good looking, I think. And as part of that artwork coming in, I've had an incredibly kind offer from a subscriber to the channel, who I'm going to remain anonymous, who's got access to some printing technology, and he's kindly offered to make a few mugs for giveaways and that type of thing. So we're not going to go mad at this first 1,000 subscriber one. I'm going to keep it fairly small, but what I am going to do is I'm going to hold 2 separate drawers because I've got 2 lots of things to give away. So firstly, T-slot cleaners, and you guys may have seen the make video of those, but there's a T-slot cleaners with the inscription John's Workshop and 1,000 subs, so there's 2 of those to give away. And then I've got a couple of mugs to give away, and these are kindly donated with the new artwork on it, so that's the new channel logo. And this particular one, which will be the first prize in the mug giveaway, if we want to call it that, sounds fantastic, doesn't it, all these giveaways. This has got the 1,000 subscriber text on it, so we'll make that first prize draw in the sort of mug giveaway, and then the second prize draw is the same mug, same artwork, but without the 1,000 subscriber one. So this was a bit of a demo run, and the gentleman who's done this for me just put the 1,000 subs on one of the mugs. But you know, for what we're doing for 1,000 subs, that's great. And there'll be new stickers as well that have got the same logo on, new channel stickers, so we'll get those out. So in terms of rules and how we're going to run this, so my email address is on the title slides of every video that I've ever made, largely. What I'm asking you to do is, you know, if you want to be in the draw for the T-slot cleaners, and again, you know, the 14mm T-slots, if that's the size of machine you've got, then, and you fancy one of these, then by all means chuck your name in the draw. If you don't have a milling machine at all and you want one of these to stick on the wall or whatever it is, then by all means chuck your name in the draw. But the reason I'm splitting this up is there's no point giving one of these away to somebody who doesn't want to put it on the wall, or, you know, whatever, use it as a tin opener or whatever they want to use, prop the door open with it. If they're not going to use it, it might as well go to somebody who can get use out of it. So that's why I'm splitting the drawers in half. So the rules are very simple. I'm going to leave this to run for 2 weeks. to give everybody time to see this video. So if you want to go in the draw, if you send me a personal email to the email address that's on the title screen, and you just basically say you want to go in the draw, and if you put your draw that you want to go in, so just put tea slot cleaner or put mugs, and I'll enter your names into those separate draws. And that's probably the fairest way I can do it, to try and make sure that we're not giving stuff away that could be used by somebody who can make use of it. And it's just really around the tea slot cleaners. So not the biggest giveaway in the world, but as I said, I've got a few more of these mugs, and we're going to keep those for maybe a 2,500 or whatever other giveaway we decide to do at some point in the future. And again, it's just a little thank you for all the support that I've had from you guys getting to the magic 1,000 number. So as I said, email me at the email address. Just put in the email. You're going to need to give me your full name, and I'll be able to respond to the email then, and give me your full name so that I'm going to write these out on little tickets of paper, have 2 separate pots, and we're just going to draw the names out of each until we've got enough names to give them away, and then I'll contact you back at that point. That's why I need your full name. So there could be 6 or 7 Freds that enter, for example. So I need the full name on the ticket, and then I'll email you back, and we'll work out an address, and we'll get these posted off to you as a thank you gift for the subscribers. So I hope that's quite clear, and without further ado, I'm going to go back to the original footage that I filmed for this Blether video, and we'll continue on with the video. So what we're going to do in this Blether, well, I've been spending some money, and so I'm going to bring you in at the bench now. I've got some items on the bench that we're just going to walk through, and we are going to it's probably going to turn into a bit of a product review, if I'm honest, this episode. It's not something I typically do, but it's something that I'm not going to get into this particularly. It's not really what this channel's about, but it's something that I just wanted to try and understand, and I'll give you more information on that as we get into it. So I'll move you in at the bench, and we'll have a look at what's arrived. Right then guys, what have we got? Well, we've got a collection of bits and pieces, and so what's prompted this? Well, a couple of things really. Firstly, and I just want to address this, I've watched so many people's channels, and I've subscribed to so many people, and over the years I've watched bang good review after bang good review after bang good review after bang good review, and some of them are bang good reviews, and I'll say no more about that, and some of them are more genuine. And I really wondered what all the hype was about, and I've been burnt already by buying cheap import rubbish. And in the last video that I produced, I showed the knurling tool that is one of those very things, and that is absolutely dire. But I've also bought some other cheap stuff, such as my milling machine, which has largely come from the same place as where all the Banggood stuff comes from, and it's reasonable. With a bit of work and a bit of effort, it's reasonable. So I really wanted to understand what the hype was about around Banggood, and I've got some gaps in my tooling and gaps in my armoury, so I thought, well, I'm just going to get a few bits and pieces together, and we're going to see what they're really like. And this will be, this is all paid for out of my own pocket. There's been no communication with Banggood other than me going on the website and placing an order and buying some stuff. So if these are crap, you're going to know about it because you'll see it. And if they're good, I'll be as kind as I can. So what have I bought? So firstly, I'm always struggling with parallels on the mill, because all the parallels I've got are from a sort of 6-inch Abwood vise from a Bridgeport, and I've got a 3-inch or just over 3-inch vise on the mill, which is much shallower, so I don't have a reasonable range of parallels at the minute. And I thought, well, what could possibly go wrong with parallels? If they're rubbish, if they're not parallel, if they're bent and twisted, it really doesn't matter because I've got a surface grinder, so fairly safe bet really. If they were absolutely dire, I can fix them and I can make them good again. So I thought, I can't really lose if I buy that. So I've bought a set of parallels. They're the width of my vise, so ideal for the milling machine, and they came reasonably well wrapped. They're in a box, it's a, you know, it's a wooden box. It's nothing like the quality of a wooden box you'd get from a quality bit of gear, but it's a wooden box to hold them all in. They arrived okay. This was reasonably well wrapped up. So what we're going to do in this video in a while is we're going to just take a couple of sets of these out, going to get them up on the surface plate and do some just rudimentary checks on them with some measurement gear, and just get a real feel for how good quality these really are. And with a slant on for the home shop. You know, nobody in a production shop is going to be buying stuff from Banggood. This is really only going to be people in a home shop. So we'll have a look at that. What else have I bought? So screw cutting. When it comes to screw cutting on the lathe, I'm hampered in two ways. The first disablement, for want of a better word, I've got is that I don't have a screw cutting dial on the lathe. So that's the first thing, and secondly, other than me grinding up bits of high-speed steel, I don't have any screw cutting tooling. Certainly no inserted screw cutting tooling. So I've bought a internal and an external screw cutting tool and the matching metric inserts that go with that. You know, cheap as chips, totally cheap as chips, really. And I'm not going to review those in this video, but just to let you know, that's what I've got. So they will be making an appearance at some point in the future when I'm doing some screw cutting. So we'll not talk about those anymore. What else did I buy? I bought a keyless chuck and the respective Morse taper 3 arbor, and this is for my lathe. So how did this come packaged? Well, it came packaged like this. You know, I've not made any attempt to open this box because I don't really need to. So this is how it came, and this was kind of hanging out the bag. You know, there's quite some weight to that. It's probably a good kilogram, I would think, to that. They do two different types. They do a high precision one. I'll try not to laugh. There's a high precision one and a regular one. This is the high precision one, which obviously it's a shame the box doesn't take care of it. Anyway, there we go. So that's how that came, and a Morse taper 3 arbor to go in the back of it. Again, I've not undone that, still all sellotaped up, so I'm probably not going to do anything with that in this video either. Last thing I bought was a pair of 321 blocks. Now, I have opened this box. How did they come packaged? Well, they came like this, wrapped in a polythene bag, no other protection other than thin cardboard and a polythene bag around them, but they've managed to get all the way from China to my house in a reasonable state. What do they look like inside? Well, this was a shock when I opened it. I genuinely thought I'd bought 321 blocks that had got full of holes, you know, threaded holes and clearance holes as a regular 321 block would be. Apparently not. So I will go and check what I actually ordered, but these just have one single hole in the middle. That is, I don't even know if it's threaded or not. I've not looked into it that deeply yet, but anyway, as part of this episode, we'll get these out, we'll put them on the surface table with the parallels, and we'll do some rudimentary checks. And again, I thought, can't lose with this. You know, if these are crap, I've got a surface grinder, we'll just make them good. So what I did do is I took one out and I just ran a file over one of the chamfers on the corner to see if they're hardened, and they are. So the option for me putting additional holes in these is really non-existent. So they are what they are. The 321 blocks, they'll still be useful. So we'll do some checks on the surface plate and see what they look like. Right then, guys, we're at the surface plate, and I've cleaned up the two 1, 2, 3 blocks, and I've also taken a selection 2 sets of parallels out. I've cleaned down the surface plate, made sure that's super clean. I've cleaned the underside of my clock base. I've cleaned all my micrometers and anvils to make sure they're all clean. So we're going to do a bit of visual inspection first to see what we've got, and then we'll do some geometrical inspection, and we'll check for size, flatness, parallelism, and anything else I can think of. The one thing I can't check very well at the moment, because I don't really have the gear for it, is squareness. so we'll have to give squareness a bit of a miss, but certainly parallelism and flatness. Now squareness really is important on these 1, 2, 3 blocks. That's what I really want them for, so I need to develop a method of doing that, and I'm probably going to need to modify my clock stand in some way to be able to check squareness, and that's a job for the future. So I've zoomed in on one of the 1, 2, 3 blocks to give you an idea of surface finish and what they look like. You can see we've got some reasonably uniform chamfers, but the chamfers themselves are a bit rough. I think they've just been whizzed over with a grinding wheel at an angle, probably by hand, just to deburr this. I've not yet really checked flatness, which will tell me whether there's any raised edges, so I've done nothing with these other than get the grease off them and drop them straight on the table. So I don't know whether we've got any raised burrs or anything like that. I've not run any oil stones over these to check for that. I wanted to give it this straight out the box so that we can look at them in you know, as they would arrive from delivery. So that's the kind of surface finish. What I'll do now is I will try, and I don't think this is going to work too well, we're going to get my microscope out and we're going to examine in a bit more detail, if I can, the sort of surface finish we've got from the grinding that's been done on these blocks. And I have just visually looked at them by eye, and the grinding looks the same on the blocks as it does on the parallel, so we'll just do it on the blocks to give you an idea. I don't think it's going to be that successful, but we'll give it a try. So guys, I've got my microscope and I've got my tablet down here, a wireless microscope, so you can see that. So I'm going to try and zoom in on the tablet now, and we'll try and look at some of the surface finish. So I'll bring you back when I get this zoomed in. I'm not sure how much light reflection I'm going to get, but we'll give it a shot. So that's about as good as I'm going to get on maximum magnification. So you can see there, and you know, if you blow any surface up this big, it looks like a ploughed field, and that absolutely looks like a ploughed field. But what I'm actually looking for within that ploughed field is any sort of tearing, ripping, which would suggest that these things have been ground at such a high speed that would give you an indication of how good they're actually going to be. And actually, you know, what I'm seeing there, and it's difficult to show on the camera, but what I'm seeing there looks pretty good. It's all linear. There doesn't appear to be any tearing or ripping. It looks fairly uniform, and it looks fairly crisp, like it's been ground with a well-dressed wheel. That's about as much as I can tell you from what I can see there. What I will do now is just run over them visually, and I'll put the microscope back on anything that I find that looks like it's damage or anything like that. So if there's anything like that, we'll just bring you back and have a look at that. So there we go guys, it's moving around a little bit because I've got hold of the microscope in my hand, but right at the corner of one of the blocks you can see there, and that's kind of what I was looking for in the image. You can see there's some quite deep scoring. Well, it looks quite deep, obviously at this level of magnification. It's actually probably just a tiny scratch where they've taken it off the mag chuck, but there is some damage, and that's pretty much on all four corners of these things. Yeah, you can see where that's been slid off a mag chuck or something. You can just see the direction of that line going off at a funny angle there across the grind. So that's what that is, and I'm not being picky on purpose. I'm quite sure that if I looked at one of my parallels that I've taken off the surface grinder, there would be evidence of at least a bit of marking on it in the ground surface. But you know, on the whole, these are pretty good. But you can see there is some, yeah, there's some slight, that's pretty bad at that corner. You can see some more damage there. Okay, I think that will do for surface finish. I think we've done that to death. What we'll do now is get the measurement equipment on these and just see whether they are actually 1, 2, 3 blocks or whether they're something else. Okay, so first things first, when you're doing anything like this, trying to do fine measurements, you must have clean hands. If you're working on a surface table, there's no good doing it with oily, greasy, dirty hands or hands that's got swarf on. So I've just been and I've basically degreased my hands with the same cloth that I've used to degrease this stuff with, so I know I'm not going to contaminate any of my surfaces, which should leave me free for good measurement. So we're going to go for Imperial first, and I thought this is something that I've not covered yet that's worthy of covering. So this is a 0 to 1, it's a Moore and Wright, decent micrometer. So interesting, not everybody will know this, but you may see people do this to undo a micrometer. Don't ever do that. That barrels your thread and it wears it. So to move a micrometer quickly, to open it, the way I was taught to do it is you roll it up your arm or roll it across the back of your hand. You know, if you want to move it from one end of the travel to the other quickly, that's the right way to do it. So you can see there 4 or 5 rubs, and that's right out at maximum. Do not be tempted to swing it around like that. So with that lesson over, we'll measure up and see what we've got. So this is probably going to be upside down for the camera. Let's just see if we can turn it around. So we're probably talking half a tenth over. It's difficult on a mic. A tenth to half a tenth over the inch at that corner. Probably the same amount under at that corner. Yeah, probably about a tenth under at that corner. Probably a tenth and a half under, maybe, at that corner. We'll just go back and check my first corner again, because everything else has been under. Yeah, no, actually that's about a tenth under, so ropey reading first time round. So pretty parallel across that, within a tenth or so, best I can measure it with a micrometer. Interesting as well, this is a whole topic for debate. There's a ratchet on this micrometer that's designed to be used so that you get the same force every time you measure, and that's good for people who aren't used to using measurement equipment. My preference is not to use that, because I've been caught out so many times over the years where you use the ratchet, you hear the clicks, you don't get the feel, because all you can feel is the ratchet. So I've always used my feel, and you can feel whether you're square, you can feel whether you're pissed, for want of a better word, or you can feel whether you're square onto the job. And I always use my feel. I know what my feel is, and I will always try and use the same amount of feel every time. And it's a controversial topic. You know, people say micrometers are designed with a ratchet to be used, and that's probably true. My personal preference, having been caught out with a ratchet through not having that feel, is to manually do it. So I'm getting the same measurement at all 4 corners here with this as the other block, so it's measuring at about a tenth under all the way around. Okay, so as a pair across the 1 inch, they're parallel. Now I've got this dog-eared old Starrett micrometer. It's not brilliant, so all I'm going to do here, rather than try and measure a size, I'm going to use this as a comparator to measure between the 2 blocks. There's no point trying to measure a size with this, because it's so old and it's been so rusty that I don't trust it, but it's all I've got. Having said that, I don't know if that's showing up, but that's smack on 2 inches with that micrometer. So even though this looks dog-eared, it's still, you know, assuming this block is 2 inches, it's still measuring a decent 2 inches. Let's try the other end. bang on 2 inches again. Let's try the other one. I'm assuming these have been ground as a pair, but they'll be ground in such high volumes, these, the chances that they're the same pair off the same setting is probably quite slim. But bang on 2 inches. And bang on 2 inches. So certainly in terms of size, pretty good. So we'll just roll this out to the 3-inch mark. Arguably half a tenth, maybe, it's hard to tell, over on that one. And the same that one. So are these 1, 2, 3 blocks? Best I can measure they are with the stuff I've got in my shop. So, you know, in terms of that, fairly impressed. Okay, so we're going to check the 2-inch dimension first. So you can see, I'll just reset, so you can see I've got the minimum amount of weight on the clock, and this clock is in 5/10 of a thou per division. So I'm going to bring that onto 0, and then I'm just going to tap around just to make sure that's settled. It's not quite on 0, excuse my head if it's in the way. Okay, it's about as good as I can see that. So we're going to dance around the block. I can see no movement on there at all. We'll go through the centre. We'll bring the other block in. Gently approach. Absolutely bang on. Go through the centre. Not much wrong with that, is there? Okay, so what have we got parallel wise? I've got 2 sets out. I'll get the bigger ones, they're easy to see. So again, decent surface finish. They're marked up with the sizes. So 4mm thick, 26mm high, 100mm long. Look to be well ground. Decent finish. They've got the tiniest stoned break edge on the corners. It's so small that I don't think the camera will even pick this up, but just as I like them, with a very tiny stoned radius, or not radius, break edge on the corner. So that's good. I can't feel any particular high spots where they've done any of the break edging. I'd expect it less on these because these have been break edge with the stone as opposed to with a grinder. So what we'll do is we'll do the flatness test again, and I think this is where you'll see a marked difference from the 1, 2, 3 blocks. So we just laid it on the table. So if I look where the pivot point is on that one, it's right on this back corner. You can see that, pivoting around that back corner. We'll turn it over. So you it's now pivoting around the centre. So that's telling me this parallel is bowed that way. By how much I don't know, but yeah, that's definitely bowed. You can even hear it. You can hear the difference in sound between that and that. Totally different. And I can actually feel that. I can feel that bow. We'll put the clock on that and see if we can measure some of that deflection. Let's try its brother. Make sure that's clean, it should be. So, bowing right in the centre, hopefully you can see that. We'll whip it over and I bet £1 it will be bowed. It will be pivoting from one of this back corner. There you go. So same thing with that, it's bowed. So if we go back to that way, that one doesn't feel as bad as the other one. Actually I've got that. No, that is the right way up, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, it's bowed that way. We'll just check the smaller ones. So these are 10mm by 100, 4mm thick, exactly the same. We'll just do the flatness test. Pivoting right in the centre. Pivoting from the back corner. Actually it's this back corner on this one. Check the other one. Well, this one's the worst one. That's just, you know, that's definitely bowed. So, yeah, pivoting in the centre. Actually, that way, interestingly enough, it's pivoting as you'd expect for something that's flat. It's pivoting at about the 2/3. Well, maybe not quite the 2/3 point, but yeah, that's really bowed that way. That's hardly touching the table surface at all, otherwise it wouldn't do that. Just make sure that I'm giving it a fair trial and it hasn't got a bit of something underneath it. I don't think so, because we've put it up and down 3 or 4 times and it's been in the same place. Yeah, it's definitely bowed. Okay, I'm just going to do some measurement now of these. So we'll start with the 10mm ones. See what we've got with the micrometer. So hard to say. It's pretty much on the 0, maybe a tiny bit under. So same as the 0 line on this mic, by the way, it's not the top of the graduations, it's the line above it. There's the 0. Check the other end. Yeah, it's about the same, tiny bit under. We'll check its brother. Yeah, that's a bit smaller by probably 3 microns, best I can make out with the mic. Same thing that end. About 3 microns, 2 to 3 microns smaller than the other one. So tiny bit out, but you know, again, home shop, 2 to 3 microns. Is that really going to bother me on an imported Chinese milling machine? Probably not, if I'm honest. So I could do more checks. I was thinking about setting the 1, 2, 3 blocks up, putting this and running the clock over both and comparing them, but I'll be here all night. I'm going to do some more checks myself for my own sanity, but what's my overall verdict of, is it bang good or is it bang bad? I guess is the question. For the price I've paid, I was fully expecting to be sticking these on the surface grinder and doing some work with them. Am I going to stick them on the surface grinder and do work with them? I don't think so. I need to check squareness of these. That's what's really important. I need these for the surface grinder, and they must be square, so that's what's really important with these 1, 2, 3 blocks. Parallels, yeah, they're a bit bent and twisted this way. If I ever wanted to use them in that orientation, that could be a problem, but no, largely you use them this way up, the way they're designed. A couple of microns variation, I'm not going to lose any sleep over that, if I'm honest. So, have I got value for money? I think so. I've got to say, what I paid for them, I think the parallel set was about 60 quid, I think, delivered for a full set of parallels. They are hard, they're ground, they're marked up, they're pretty well ground. If I was to make a full set of those parallels, even if I was working at £20 an hour, could I get a full set made, milled up or cut out of gauge plate, hardened, tempered, ground for 60 quid? Probably not. So I would suggest that they're good value for money. And you know, as I said at the beginning, this is not a bang good review. This is a review of some tooling that I've bought out of my own pocket for the shop, out of curiosity, and because I've got some gaps in my tooling armoury, and these are going to help me. So would I recommend anybody else to buy these? Now that's a difficult question, because I could have just got lucky here. The next guy that buys a set of these could get something that's not quite as good, and if he doesn't have a surface grinder, you're stuck with them. So yeah, difficult question. That I think I'd answer that is you do so at your own risk, but if you get this level of quality and they come packaged at least as well as mine did, or hopefully slightly better, you probably can't go wrong for the money, is what I'd suggest. So with all that said, before this video goes on too long, I'll bring you back at the bench and we'll close this Blether video out. So guys, we'll call that a wrap, I think, for the Blether video, for Blether number 8. I hope you found that interesting. I certainly have. I've surprised myself. I was very skeptical about what I was going to find in my little packages from overseas. I've got to say I'm pleasantly surprised at how good they actually are, and they're certainly going to come in very handy in the workshop, and I'm pleased that I don't have to go to a lot of trouble now on the surface grinder, although that would have been interesting. I may have a go at on the parallels where they are a bit bowed. I may have a go at that at some point, because I think that would be an interesting video, because there's certain ways, you know, getting bow out on the surface grinder on thin bits like that is quite difficult, because as you put them on a magnet, it just pulls the bow out, and then the minute you release the magnet, the bow pops back in again. So it's a case of having to shim them underneath to try and take the bow out while you grind one side to make sure it's flat, and then turning over. So we could maybe do a video on something like that. I think that could be quite interesting for anyone who's got a grinder. So yeah, we'll close this Blether out in a minute. So I just want to recap and say thank you once again to everybody who has supported the channel and who's been kind enough to click the subscribe button, and especially the guys that comment each week. I really do enjoy the comments, and I've often been meaning to say this and I keep forgetting, you know, I do try and reply to every single comment. For how long that's going to be sustainable, I really don't know, but at the moment I do try and reply to everybody. apart from the nonsense ones, obviously I just leave them alone. But anybody who's being sensible and constructive, I'll definitely reply. I really enjoy the comments, I enjoy the feedback, I enjoy the thought process that you guys have got, so that's all good. That's payback for me, for the effort and time it takes to make these videos. So yeah, so thank you all. It's a massive achievement getting to the 1,000, and I think we'll finish off with a bit of a surprise, so or something quite interesting. And this is going to take a while to come to fruition, but I'm working on taking an apprentice on in the shop, and so that's going to be quite an interesting thing. I've got a tractor busy cutting grass right outside the front by the sound of it, so excuse the noise. So what are we going to do with the apprentice? Well, he's going to be not your average apprentice. He's not going to be 16 and covered in spots. He's probably nearer 60. He's a bit grumpy and cantankerous, or can be. So yeah, we'll introduce you to him at some point, and I think it's going to be interesting showing how he gets on in and around the workshop, on his learning adventure into what we do in a workshop, or what we do in an engineering shop. So that's going to take a good few weeks and months for that to come together. So that will be, I'll probably discuss that again a few more times in the Blether. Still working on the fine details of how it's all going to work out, but that could be something a bit different and a bit interesting. So on that note, we'll close this one out. Thank you all again. I'll not labour the point, and we'll catch you all very soon on another video when we'll be making something else.